Yo, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday Eve. It's We Talking About Sports. I'm Roland. I'm joined tonight by Ben. It's a skeleton crew, little two-man game, little pick and roll, little Rob and Big action. Ben's Rob, I'm Big. We're here to break down everything that's happened this week with the trade deadline. We got the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, a lot to talk about there, some UFC action and some more fight action with another fight that was announced today, which is close to a done deal, as some are saying. Ben, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Watching some hoops, watching the Rockets. They're playing the T-Wolves right now, trying to get off this 4-game skid. Was excited to do a show. We got the last football game of the season, a.k.a. the Super Bowl, a.k.a. the big one, a.k.a. the whole enchiladas. But, we had the Super Bowl, had to come on this week, like you said, Skeleton Crew. The NBA trade deadline has been insane. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then some fights to end the night.
Yeah, man. It's crazy how this all broke down with the NBA trade deadline. As we know, the NFL pretty much controls the calendar for all intents and purposes. There's NFL news across the year, but on the NFL's biggest week, the NBA trade deadline did not disappoint. You see some of the bigger faces here pictured to the right. And we're going to get into the one that really just shook the world, took the world by surprise. I don't think anybody expected this. I remember when we were talking about this in our group chat, I was laying down to go to bed and I was just scrolling through my messages to see what was going on. I see the image and I literally thought, is this AI? Is this fake? Is this one of those, Lakers fans that just threw an image out onto X and caught some steam? Ben, what were your initial thoughts when you saw this trade? Did you believe it was real?
Yeah, I didn't believe it was real, but it did say, Sham said it. So we were about to hit the road. We had left Marquise. I think we were on the road and we were at a light, and I actually pulled into a convenience store to kind of search the timeline and make sure it was one of those that where were you when the Luka news came out? It was at, a Saturday night after some boxing fights. I think it was past midnight already, maybe around midnight. But yeah, just one of those late night deals that, kept everyone up a little bit late scrolling the timeline Saturday night.
Yeah, and we have the details here to the right, and I honestly think the saying is the devil's in the details, and that's really what tells the story here, and I think is what makes this trade so monumental and just so mind-boggling when you break it down. It's Luka Doncic, the 25-year-old superstar. He's been injured this year. There's been a lot of talk about his defense through his whole career. Got highlighted in the Celtics series and the NBA Finals, which he led them to, by the way. But anyways, the trade here pictured on the right, Lakers get Luka, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris still in the league. Shout out. And the Mavs, they end up with Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and the LA Lakers 2029 first round pick. The Jazz, the funny part about this, the Jazz hop in here to make this a 3-team trade. Danny Ainge, never seen a trade that he doesn't want to be a part of. He said he didn't even know he was helping the Lakers land Luka at the end of the day. So this was really one of those things. And then you hear about Rob Pelinka and how he finessed Nico Harrison. He convinced Nico. I mean, this is straight from Rob Pelinka's mouth that this had to be between the Mavs and the Lakers completely. That they could not let this leak. It had to be an intimate transaction. Ben, thoughts on that? I mean, the Mavs, they got fleeced here, right? There's no way that you can be a Mavs fan and be happy with what you got. Or are you going to play devil's advocate here?
Yeah, no, Mark Cuban sells the team. We know that he's been quoted as to saying, I divorced my wife before I traded away Luka Doncic. And, he sells the team, and just 1 year later, I mean, this GM, he kind of made his bed already, in that post-trade conference with Jason Kidd saying, in 10 years, they might bury us or we might just bury ourselves. And, saying that Jason Kidd had no idea about it, that part I feel kind of hard to believe, but you got to think like if any of that does get out, the amount of, like you're just going to be met with some retaliation. Nobody's going to think it's a good idea, unless you sneak that one in under the rug. On a Saturday night when everybody's home, supposedly LeBron didn't even know. I don't know about that because AD is a clutch athlete. So if Rich Paul knew, there's no way LeBron didn't know. But supposedly very hush-hush, very good friends, started off as a coffee date, and it turned into Luka for AD in a first-round pick. Crazy.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. And shout out Jerry. He's a known Mavs fan here. I'm sure he's reeling like, the videos that were coming out. And, a lot of times you say fans go too far with burning the jerseys, with, just showing up with obscene posters and whatever, making crazy comments online, DMs and players' comments and Instagrams, whatever you want to call it. But the Mavs contingency of fans that were outside American Airlines Center, I could not help but just, want to be on their side. I'm not a Mavs fan. Spurs fan. We'll talk about their trade here in a little bit. But if you're the rest of the league, you have to be looking like, why couldn't you include us in these trade talks? The Spurs, they have almost 10 first-round picks. Your Rockets, they have a boatload of first-round picks. Don't you think some of these teams would have absolutely thrown the house at Nico and the Mavs? I mean, that's just another layer to this, in my opinion, that just makes it all the more nuts.
Yeah, I know the memes and the jokes are coming around, but this is one of those where, we saw the Chris Paul of the Lakers be vetoed, in the late 2000s, early 2000s, I'm sorry. 2000s.
Yeah, mid-2000s. Yeah.
This is one where, somebody's got to step in. I mean, if this happens in a fantasy league, the commissioner, I don't think is hitting approve on this type of trade. It's one of those, the other annoying part as Lakers fans show up in the comment section here is like all the Luka fans are now going to become Laker fans also, bro.
But can you blame them though? Can you blame them if you're a Mavs fan who you have an affinity for Luka? I mean, I was in Dallas yesterday for work, and there's people in the airport talking about it that Luka was their guy. He was the next Dirk. He was the next guy that they were going to build a statue out there for, and he's 25 years old. I know there's some stuff going on there with his injuries. They were saying he's 270 pounds. He's pushing 300. Guarantee you he's going to show up with the six-pack on day one with LeBron James.
I don't know about a six-pack.
Well, he's going to show up damn near close to one with LeBron James there as his personal trainer. So, I mean, just to kind of wrap this up and start thinking about moving forward, lastly on the Mavs before we get to the Lakers, is there any way they can salvage themselves here and any self-respect that they have? Is winning a title good enough? Do they need to win two? Like what's your thoughts? Yeah, the Mavs, and then we'll go to
I mean, if they win one title, I think the trade paid off. Because I mean, I know that they hadn't won a title yet, but I mean, they had Luka there for a while, and it's kind of, hey, this is the system that we want to build. They think, a lot of people, Kyrie, some may say he's not as good as Luka, but just as talented, can run an offense. You get an anchor, a big. They have a lot of guys. They're going to be one of those scrappy teams that plays really hard. We'll see if they have enough offense, night in and night out, but they're probably still going to be competitive. Just, tonight they beat the Celtics, and that was without AD playing just yet. They're going to be playing hard. They're going to be playing team ball. The ball's going to move around. Spencer Dinwiddie, PJ Washington, some of these guys are going to have more opportunity now that Luka's not dribbling the air out of the ball.
Yeah, I definitely see you from that perspective. And, it's not like Anthony Davis is a scrub. He's 31 years old. He's often injured. But when he plays, more than 70 games, which he just did last year for the first time in a couple years, he's an all NBA defensive, player of the year candidate annually when he's playing at his best. And then when you talk, go ahead, Ben.
I believe he was coming off like his last game with the Lakers was a volleyball.
Yeah,
So.
and I mean Anthony Davis again. He's one of the best players that we've seen of this current generation for sure. But the argument, and we won't get into that. It's 25 versus 31. But the Mavs going forward, I like their squad for the regular season. I do think they're going to run into some trouble in the playoffs where you do have to shorten those lineups. You can't have such a deep lineup. They're throwing out the depth numbers here, talking about they might be the most stacked team. And if you just look at the roster, they probably have the most solid roster top to bottom if you just consider everything. But in the NBA playoffs, you have to trim down that lineup. Some guys are going to get run off the court. They're going to be bad matchups for certain teams. And then when you look at their two guys, AD and Kyrie, you and I were talking about it earlier in the week. I view both Kyrie and AD as, what you would call alpha lights or 1As. I don't think they're true ones. I think Kyrie maybe at one point in his career, same with AD, were true ones. But at this point, I think they benefit from having a true one around them, like Kyrie had with LeBron or Kyrie had with Luka just recently in Dallas, and AD with LeBron. He was the guy in New Orleans, but look, he didn't really get anywhere.
Right.
So that's kind of my take on it. I like it. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be in second round, maybe conference championship, but I think they're going to run into some trouble along the line, just based on that when they don't have a guy like number 77 standing up here. And that's what makes, honestly, last take on this, what makes me the most mad is the Lakers get another golden parachute. Say what you will about how they've accumulated their talent in the past, but right when you think they're going to be down, Nico just, comes in and saves the day for them. But anyways, for the Lakers, I have it up here. Do you view them as true contenders now in the West? I know you might have a differing take, but what do you think about their chances going forward? I mean, you're a Rockets fan. You're a team that is looking at possibly having to line up against them in the playoffs. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't see how they figure it out. Two ball dominant guys like them in 20 games that there is left, 25 games before the playoffs. So I don't see them as a threat this year. We'll see what happens. They also did add Williams.
Yep.
I think that's at the very bottom. But since we're on Lakers right now, we might as well get that out of the way. But they let Dalton connect. They can't miss. They hit on that draft pick, probably the best shooter on the team behind Austin Reeves or him. But they let go of their best shooter, and they're a team that has needed shooters. So I know that they did need to fill that big man position. Jackson Hayes was going to be the starter. Couldn't let that happen.
Yeah.
So Mark Williams comes in. It's a pretty athletic center position for them now. The athleticism will make up for LeBron and Luka, sagging off on defense. But I just don't see them as a threat this year.
Yeah, I think, when you combine Luka and LeBron, I think LeBron is going to benefit more than anybody off of this. LeBron's going to have way less ball handling responsibilities. Sure, I think there's going to be a little yin to yang, but he's going to benefit so much from Luka being able to, dribble the ball and run the offense. And I like that Mark Williams trade. I think it's a perfect asset for what they needed. I think they'll figure out the shooting. I think they can make the Western Conference Finals. And I told you, and
that's the guy who's always injured, though, right? Is that the Time Lord?
Who?
Or what?
Oh no, that's Robert Williams. Williams from the Celtics.
Okay.
Mark Williams, though, to your point, now that you're on the injury thing, he has been on the bench because of injuries more than he has played. He's missed more games than he's played up until this point in his career. But 7'2" center, you've seen the graphics going up. He has the longest standing reach in the NBA, even longer than Victor Wembanyama. And that's where we're going to go next. Quick hitters on these other notable trades. The Spurs, they land De'Aaron Fox. They win the De'Aaron Fox sweepstakes. The Kings ended up sending getting Levine from the Bulls. The Bulls get a couple players and I think a pick back but anyways, don't net anything there. Ben, what are your thoughts on the Spurs landing De'Aaron Fox? Do you think this solidifies the Spurs as, a play-in contender? They were already there, but do you think they're now in the play-in or better?
Yeah, I think they're definitely now a play-in contender. They were they're still below 500 right now. So they're going to be one of those teams in the second half kind of climbing up. They got the win, by 1 point, kind of blew a big lead, but got the win on Fox's first night. I still think that Trae Young was the answer over the summer because I think Trae Young's better than Fox. But I will say it's a good pairing. It's a good, dynamic with his, quickness and all that. And then Wemby, he is a shorter guard, but I like the move. They finally did something. They also went and got a guy that was like in their time frame. Fox necessarily not the oldest guy, still in his 20s, so he's going to fit their time frame. So not mad at it at all. But I still would have preferred Trae Young. I think, the Hawks seem like they're tanking, and Trae Young this summer was a name that was being shopped around. Like he might not come back he might not play for Atlanta again. I just think Trae Young is better, would have been the better option. But Fox definitely, former All-Star, can't be mad at it, especially for what y'all gave up.
And Edgar, for you just logging on, Ben did hit up that
late.
talk about the Mavs beating the Celtics. We did give them that shout out. But back to this Spurs trade, I love it. I'm a Spurs fan here. I like Fox more than I do Trae Young at this point in their careers. I love Trae Young as a scorer and facilitator, but he is, for all intents and purposes, a cone on defense. I think the Spurs defense can take a step from being good to great with Fox. Fox led the NBA in steals, or he was competing for that lead last year with SGA. And he's a guy at the point guard position that can get a bucket. We haven't had that really since, Tony Parker. And I really think when you have a guy that can establish the offense at the point guard position with the center like Wemby, man, I think it could be a match made in heaven. I think the Spurs are still a piece or two away from being true contenders. I think they need another true scorer probably, and then they need to get a true power forward in there. So they still got some holes in the roster to fill, but I do believe they're going to be a true play-in contender. I was talking with our friend Joby. I think they got to go 20-15 or something like that to end at 500 at 41-41, and I think that's kind of at the play-in mark. The other little piece of this, and we'll move on to the rest of the trades after this, the Spurs, they got to keep the pick that they got from Atlanta, tied to one of those trades of 2 or 3 years ago. And that's going to turn out to be a very valuable for DeJounte. There you go. Thank you. When they traded DeJounte, that's going to turn out to be a very valuable trade asset, or excuse me, a draft capital, because the Falcons, I'm all over the place right now. The Hawks are looking to tank because they cleared house today, sent out DeAndre Hunter, sent out a couple other guys. Next on the list here, Jimmy Butler. The saga ends. He gets his way. He goes over to Golden State, signs a new 2-year deal. Ben, what are your thoughts? Jimmy Butler, obviously the biggest winner out of the three parties here.
Yeah, I think, for the teams, I don't think that the Heat really got too much from it. Poor Dennis Schroeder on a new team, but also Jimmy Butler ended up being the big winner here. I think both teams kind of whatever. I don't think anybody that's a Warriors fan wanted Jimmy Butler, and then you saw the deal, that got released after, where they signed him to that extension for $60 million for 2 years, and there's no player option on that. They're locked in, so. The Warriors were desperate. KD was as good as going back to Golden State. They're saying that he went in and put an end to it himself, that he didn't want to go back. So man, dude, I'm as a lifetime Warriors hater, I'm very happy that Jimmy Butler ended up over there. Between him and Steph Curry, so he's even getting paid more than Steph Curry is. Steph Curry's at $55 million a year. Jimmy Butler at $60 million a year. So that's two players making up more than $110 million of your salary. It's pretty crazy. Both on the tail end of their career. Gotta love it.
Yeah, if anything, this just proves to us, I think you mentioned some of this earlier in the week, that, you can just get your way no matter what if you're an NBA player. You hold out long enough, and really where I was going with that is they're not like us. It's just a different, you can't make the comparison to them not showing up to work to a normal person showing up to work, because look how Jimmy Butler just got rewarded. 2-year contract, $60 million a year for not showing up to work for like the past 2 months. He's been in a fight with the Heat and Pat Riley. So yeah, shout out to Jimmy Butler. I don't think it's a good trade for the Warriors. I think the Warriors near the trade deadline were just throwing crap at the wall and hoping that it would stick. They were striking out. They tried to get a reunion going with Kevin Durant. KD said that he didn't want to entertain that, didn't want to go back with his ex-girlfriend and Draymond. So they were not having it. Front office there for the Warriors got to be reeling right now. Brandon Ingram to Toronto, and Kyle Kuzma and Chris Middleton swapped places there in Milwaukee. Just going with Milwaukee since they're the ones in playoff contention, or they're championship contenders every year in the East. What are your thoughts on that trade? And then we'll move on to the
NFL. I don't see Kyle Kuzma as the type of player that can change his ways to play, winning championship basketball, and is Doc Rivers the coach to do it? I don't know. He has the archetype to be a very good player. He can knock down shots when he's not just chucking, but he was at that point with the Wizards. I think he just straight up came out and said, I'm cool on all this development crap. I just need to go out and get mine. And so it was like, that's all right. That's my way out of here. I got to say some shit like that, And here you have Koulibaly getting a triple-double for the Wizards, and, they beat Brooklyn the day that Kuzma gets traded. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Kuzma. I think that trade is just whatever, honestly. Jerry saying that Golden State 2029 pick going to be hella good. Hey, the Rockets have the Dallas Mavericks 2029 first-round pick. I think that pick is going to be hella good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of conspiracies around what the Mavs are truly trying to do. When you look at their roster, again, pairing up two 31-year-olds or 31 and 32, not going to end well in the long term. But any last thoughts here on the NBA trade deadline before we move? Truly did not disappoint this year. Shams was on one.
Yeah, I wish the Rockets had made a move. I mean, gotta throw my Rockets in here. There was some late,
for sure.
Chatter about KD. Wouldn't mind KD, somebody to come in and close the games. Us Rockets fans, we have our eyes on Devin Booker. Think, there was rumblings today. Ramona Shelburne, I don't know how credible she is, but she came out and said that, the Suns locker room is not very happy. We know they were trying to dump Bradley Beal. He wouldn't waive his no trade clause. KD was trying to get traded. He ended up staying. So we'll see what happens this summer. But I think, hopefully this summer, the Rockets have like 4 or 5 picks of the Suns. They can hopefully send those back for Devin Booker.
Yeah, no, and great point there on the Rockets. We talk about all these teams that got active. They were on the sidelines here on the trade deadline, but that's by choice. That they have a nucleus of young guys. They went out and got Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, and they want to see how far they can go with the squad. Currently number 2 in the West.
You have the assets to go out there. Like, they could have overspent. And
you guys could have packaged some guys.
Yeah, they could have gotten KD if they really wanted him, but it's not the play. So we'll wait till the summer, see what happens.
Yeah, shout out Josh, and pour one out for Chris Middleton, man. NBA champion, just ankles were given out on him. All right, this is the reason why everybody's here. If you're not true NBA fans, it's the Super Bowl Licks, Super Bowl LIX, Super Bowl 59.
LIX.
It's the Chiefs versus the Eagles. Got the tail of the tape up here. Patrick Mahomes versus the Offensive Player of the Year just named tonight. Saquon Barkley, Mr. 2K, could have broken the record, took his foot off the gas pedal there towards the end, but hey, we all know he could have gotten it. We got the tail of the tape up here. The AFC representative 15-2. We all know the story with one possession games. They don't lose them. Any way you think about it, they're going to find a way to win. That's been the story of the Chiefs this year. They got that magic going on for them. The spread here, -1, +1, that kind of jumps out at you when you're thinking about who truly the better roster is. You got to think there's a little bit of a Mahomes tax there. Money line -120, +100 coming back for the Eagles. And then we have the over-under here at 48.5. And then I just threw up some offensive EPA rankings. Ben, what are your thoughts going into the game here? I know we all at this point have a little bit of, what people are coining fatigue on the Chiefs, but I think more so this year it's just been the style in which they've won their games. Ben, what are your initial thoughts here?
Before I give my take, I hope that maybe it just hasn't been announced, but you haven't mentioned who won MVP.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. I hope because I figured if Josh Allen won it, he would have mentioned it. But I didn't even know the NFL Honors Awards were going on today. I did see that Patrick Surtain won Defensive Player of the Year.
Jared Verse, Defensive Rookie of the Year.
So we'll shout out Mondo. His Broncos are back with a Defensive Player of the Year. Maybe he can be on our Futures podcast episode next year, make an appearance now that the Broncos are relevant. But getting back to the Super Bowl, like you said, it's definitely some fatigue with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it's been loud, and they've been hearing it from everybody about the refs, compilations coming out. The NFL, the referees actually came out and gave a statement. I think that's how obsessive the fan bases were over, Bill's fan base was going crazy with Josh Allen being called short. We know that they always get, these phantom calls. The Texans got some roughing the passers that were legal hits. It just tends to happen. So for, the league's officiating, whatever spokesperson to come out, issue out a statement, I thought that even that was kind of weird in itself. Like, you're not really – you're not supposed to be reading the comments. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if you're the league. But like I said, against the Bills, I really wanted the Bills to win and cover. I believe that they did cover too. Here, +1, -1, it's just you got to win. And you just kind of feel stupid if you're going to literally place your money against the Chiefs. You feel stupid knowing that you're probably going to be pissed off because in a one possession game, they're going to get that bounce. They might get that call, whatever it might be. They just tend to do it in one possession games. So as much as I don't want to see it, the NFL has already gone and, compensated Pat Riley, I'm sure very nicely to be able to use the 3P term that he trademarked after those Lakers championships. So I know that's just preparation. That's just in case, but they're gearing up for it, man. And it just makes too much damn sense, bro. Like, we've been talking about it all season. The Taylor Swift shit, just everything. I think Travis Kelce hasn't had a big game yet in the playoffs. I think Travis Kelce's due for a pretty big game in the Super Bowl. We know that he usually always scores a touchdown. He hasn't been scoring yet, but I expect Travis Kelce to have himself a day. That's where I would look on Chiefs side props. And, Jerry's over here saying Saquon 3 TD prop bet. I wouldn't go that far, but I heard that there's not too bad of a number on his 1 touchdown prop. So I think, you can put that in there with maybe something else that you like.
Yeah, this for me, and I think I mentioned it when I was breaking it down, the line -1, +1, you got to think, if you just, and it's hard to say remove Patrick Mahomes from the equation, but just looking down the roster, top to bottom, you go offensive line, Eagles, secondary, Eagles, wide receiver weapons, Eagles, running back, Saquon Barkley, Eagles, quarterback, the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So if you just, think about it, neutral field, or this is neutral, or if the Eagles were at home, the Eagles are probably, 2-point favorites, 3-point favorites. So the Eagles are at home in this game. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the line, and that's why I'm more apt to be on the side of the Eagles. Although, I mean, just as a fan, Cowboys fan, do not want to see the Kelly Green hosting up that Lombardi trophy at the end of the night. But if I'm just looking at it X's and O's wise, I think the Eagles' path to victory is a lot more clear than the Chiefs, just because the Chiefs, and we mentioned it, in the breakdown for the AFC the championship game, they've been finding different ways to win each week. You touched on the refs, probably going to have that on their side. They're going for the 3P. They've been in this game before. So have the Eagles, and most of this iteration, Hurts was there. Yeah, exactly, rematch. So I too, I'm going to go with man, dude, I honestly, because I don't want to say the Eagles, because I don't want them to win. But if I were gun to my head, who I think's seeing gun to my head too, like, why am I going to go against Patrick Mahomes? So you know what? Just put me down for the Chiefs.
Imagine like gun to your head and you go against Mahomes.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're there dead and you're in your afterlife in heaven. Like, why the fuck did I go against Mahomes? Like, you just don't want to be telling yourself that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I would much rather be like, you know what, I got this one wrong. The Eagles, they blow them out or something, because if it's a close game down to the wire, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Anything here with the rankings when you look at offense versus defense? The Chiefs, we've talked about their defense being pretty elite all year. Are you surprised to see them towards the middle here of the chart, or do you think that's just those are just numbers there?
No, I mean they've been dealing with some injuries in the secondary. Chris Jones is going to be there. That's going to be the biggest thing. Can they contain Saquon? We've been talking about teams containing him, hold him under 120 yards. This Chiefs defensive front is one of the better run defenses in the league. But also the Chiefs, if they need to win a shootout, they've shown that they can win a shootout. If they need to win a 17-14 game, they've shown that they can win one of those. The Chiefs can just kind of win every type of way, and that's why they win so often. That's why they win those one possession games. You need to win a shootout, go score in 13 seconds. Probably never happened again. They do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need to win a drag it out game. They do it. So Pat Mahomes also has been using his wheels a lot, lately, 2 rushing touchdowns, I believe, against the Bills. His rushing props, they said knees count also, but I believe it's like around 6, 5.5 or 6 rushing attempts for him or rushing yards. Yeah, he's been using his wheels. Using his wheels.
He steps up in the offseason, definitely, evading the pass rush. And you got to think there's going to be some of that here, or at least he's going to have to, because the Eagles, they're known for having a vaunted defensive line there. Although they might be a little sick. I know Jalen Carter, might have caught the flu or something, but
don't we always hear that though?
Yeah,
I know we heard the same shit about Notre Dame.
Yeah, but I think Vic Fangio is going to have his boys on the defensive side of the ball ready to play. I expect this to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. The Eagles, just breaking it down. Are you worried about Jalen Hurts in this game at all? He's played good. Or actually, he played good in the last game, and the build-up to the conference championship didn't necessarily have to be great, but I thought he played pretty darn good there in that final game, in the NFC championship game. You worried about Jalen Hurts in this game? You think he's going to get some tush pushes?
He probably will get a tush push, but I mean that's going to be the way if you're the Chiefs. Let's try and make Jalen Hurts beat us with his arm. Nobody's been able to do it because they can't stop Saquon. So
yeah.
I think you sell out and then you kind of just make Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm. I think that's the best strategy defensively. Easier said than done. Like I said, they got Saquon, but
yeah, man. Definitely, I agree with you there. You got to sell out to try and stop Saquon. Force Hurts to beat you with his arms and be exclusively a passer. That's harder, easier said than done. Excuse me. But enough about the game. Let's get into a little bit of fun here. I don't have it up on the screen, but I'm gonna go through some of these. The party prop bets. And Ben, you just give me your quick thoughts. Don't have to go too much into it. First one of the more popular ones. National anthem, as far as I know, is still set at over under 120 seconds. You got John Baptiste doing it. I honestly don't know. I just know that he did the NBA All-Star game a couple years ago, and he sang it in 1:30 seconds. Any thoughts there? It has gone under past couple years.
Under.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's been trying to show off recently. I think they just want to get in, get out with a little embarrassment. Shortest rushing touchdown or shortest touchdown scored over under 1.5 yards is juiced to the under. It's like -200, but you got to think that's a pretty safe bet. You got the push.
There's too many pass interferences in the end zone. Like you're going to get the ball at the 1 yard line at some point, and then you're probably going to either tush push it in, or if it's the Chiefs, hand it off to Pacheco or Kareem Hunt down there. So
all right,
give me the under.
This one I'm gonna call the Mondo special because he honestly takes this one every day. Not trying to air you out here or every year. What will the coin toss be? Heads or tails?
I'm gonna go heads.
If you bet heads or tails, honestly, you have to be some kind of sicko.
52% chance heads.
But if you are doing it, it's a good chance you're one of my friends. So no hate here. First song played for Kendrick Lamar's halftime show. I'm going to give you 6 choices here, or 5 really, and then there's an other. Do you think he's going to open up with Not Like Us? He's got Euphoria. Squabble Up is an option here. King Kunta or DNA?
DNA.
Yeah, I think he's going to go classic. I would go King Kunta or DNA.
I heard that shout out Academics. He leaked the set list, so people saying they don't know if it's true or not. But I don't think that he would just put something out if there wasn't anything behind it. Their rehearsals had to have been done at least once by now.
They have been done. LeBron James posted it on his Instagram. He's very excited for the halftime show. Lifelong Kendrick Lamar fan. All right. More, this one's post game, but still fun. And you gotta be a little sick. Yeah, you gotta be a little sick to bet on this, but it's lime green or yellow, clear, red, blue, orange, or purple.
I'm gonna go orange.
I heard something. I'm probably gonna butcher it, but I think
It's
purple
leaked.
has.
The
I think
last couple of years, it's leaked.
I think purple has won out the last couple of years, and the Chiefs are back to back. And if you think the Chiefs go for a three-peat, why would they change up the Gatorade color? They're going to want to keep that going. So give me purple. I'm there with.
Yeah, orange is pretty stupid. I
Yeah.
don't know why I said
No, but I mean, it's one of the classic ones, so I'm there with you. All right, and then we'll finish up with two more here, both quarterback related somewhat. Who's gonna have more? Who's gonna have more passing yards, Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts? It's not that simple.
It's not that simple. It's
Uh,
that simple, Roldan. It's gonna be Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Okay, that one's probably not as hard.
But
Okay.
at the same time, I'm saying the Chiefs got to make, the Eagles win off the arm of Hurts. So if they do win off the arm of Hurts, maybe he goes for more yards. But they got Saquon running
All
the
right.
ball at least 20 plus times.
And so we're both on the Chiefs. Any world that we'll live in on a Sunday night where someone other than Patrick Mahomes is hoisting that MVP trophy.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, maybe a defensive player gets a defensive touchdown. I don't see them giving it to Kareem Hunt if he has 2 touchdowns just based off his history. There's no shot that happens. And if anybody's catching touchdowns, they're going to give it to Mahomes before them. So, Pacheco hasn't gotten as much run. Hunt has been that guy for them. I don't see them giving it to Hunt. So unless there's a defensive touchdown, I think it's got to be Mahomes if they win. And, on the other side, I'm going Saquon. I mean, I'm not thinking twice about it. If the Eagles win, it's because Saquon went off on them. And
Yeah, I agree.
they've just been able to do what they've been doing.
Yeah, he gets 140 and 2 tuds. Yeah, that's Saquon right there. And then last one, will Travis Kelce propose to Taylor Swift after the game?
No, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a bet. I just had to throw that in there. But let's wrap it up
Damn it,
here.
bro. The Rockets dropped their 5th straight game, bro. Dark times in the Diaz households right now. Dark times.
I think I don't know if this is true or not. Josh Allen. Oh wait, I don't know. I don't know who the MVP is. I still haven't seen it. Seeing some fake tweets. But let's get out of here. We do got a good weekend of fights scheduled. I don't have a poster for Paul and Canelo yet, so we'll just stick here with UFC 312. We got 2 title fights. We got Sean Strickland versus DDP in the rematch. DDP won a split decision to win the gold and wrap that around his waist about a year ago. And then we got Weili Zhang, I never pronounced her name correctly, versus Tatiana Suarez. And Suarez is the surprising favorite in my eyes. Ben, tail of the tape for the DDP and Strickland rematch. We know these guys. I think I'm just going to jump right to it. Are you surprised at the line, or do you think it's properly lined here with DDP as a minus 205 favorite?
Based off the way the first fight went with it, I don't remember it being unanimous. I think it was a split.
It was split.
And it was one of those where, like, fuck, we were on DDP. We were hoping that he won, but it could have gone either way. So that, in that sense, it is surprising. But man, I do still think that DDP is going to win the fight. I think that first fight was tough, but he just seems to have I know this guy is. A lot of it is because of what he's saying, but DDP just seems to have a way better head on his shoulders.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that he loses to somebody so one-dimensional, especially in the rematch. Those times where maybe I'm not comparing him, but guys maybe struggle. They figure a fighter out, later in the first fight, but they come back that second fight and dominate him. Mayweather was known for doing that. You're not going to get anything different from Strickland than what he did that first fight. DDP can mix it up, and if it's going to be mixed up, it's going to be because of him. So I just think that he has a little easier time with Sean Strickland here in this fight. I hope that he finishes him. Sean Strickland's, a tough redneck. But yeah, I see it going to a decision again and DDP winning a unanimous this time.
Yeah, I think you brought up a lot of good points in your breakdown here. DDP, I'm going to piggyback off of one of your points. I agree. He has, what I heard on another podcast, an iron mind. He's not going to give away, his, what am I talking about? Like his mindset. He's not going to fall into your games. Like he always seems to be the controller or the leader of the mental warfare that's going on, at least between him and Sean Strickland. I mean, he made Sean Strickland cry in their first press conference, and he's had some pretty slick comments to him, and you just never know with Strickland. I think he's a guy that it works for him sometimes when he gets fired up and whatnot, but then you got to wonder where is his head going into the octagon sometimes, just based on how fired up, or how in his own head he gets, in the lead up to these fights. And then another great point that I thought you brought up, and I've heard too, is I don't think Sean Strickland's going to change anything up. I think what you're going to get from Sean Strickland. Maybe he's not going to come out with that Philly shell that everyone talks about, but he's for sure going to hit you with that jab. And the one thing that I was going to say, for him to win, I think he's got to hit a strike like he hit on Izzy, right? He's going to have to, put DDP on his back, like kind of like take his wits about him in the fight and kind of switch it. Because if he fights it the same way, like they're, kind of going back and forth, I agree that DDP is going to come back even stronger this fight. And it's going to be a little bit more lopsided. Maybe he wins in a unanimous decision style, or he takes Sean Strickland out, although, Sean Strickland's pretty tough, but we've seen him be put out before. Any thoughts there on how this fight finishes?
Yeah, no, like you talked about the mindset. I get a lot of like Ilya Taporia vibes.
Yeah,
with
100%.
DDP. Like they know what the mission is,
Yep.
they stick to the game plan, and that's literally their mission in life right now. I feel is like to hold that belt and not lose that belt. As to where Strickland, for sure, he trains all the time. You're not going to deny that, but also he's got this shit on his arm that looks like staph.
Yep.
I'm just not the biggest fan of the guy.
Yeah, since he's coming to the limelight, he's kind of waned on me too, as far as me being a fan of him.
I picked him to beat Izzy. I'm not a big Izzy guy, and he was at plus money, so it's not like I hate him to where I'm always going to pick against him. But yeah, I think here Du Plessis is just mentally just on another level.
Yeah, and on the mental note too, one more thing with Strickland. I think I saw a clip on Instagram, or as an interview that was snipped, of Eric Nikshick, his coach, saying that the whole camp, they were wrestling for Poatan and for Alex Pereira in that first fight. They were going to work in the takedowns. They were going to take him to the ground and incorporate some of that wrestling. But Sean, walking into the cage, just decided, I'm going to go ahead and stand with this guy. Just completely throws the game plan, out the window as soon as
you believe it. You believe it too. Like, of course he did that. That's not made up. Yeah, he did that shit.
That's crazy. We have his last 5 up here, as we like to show you guys. Paulo Costa, he came back. I think he should have won that at UD. I think we were talking about one of the judges in that one, kind of watching the different fight there. Then you got the loss against DDP, Izzy, Abis Magnomedov, and then the guy who just put out Izzy, Sean dominated him, Imavov.
That one's aging really well.
Yeah, no, really well. Imavov looking like a true threat in that division. Anything that we already talked about these last 5, so we don't need to re-break these down. Let's go to the champ before we talk a little bit about Weili and Tatiana Suarez. You see the odds down here. His last 5, all green. Darren Till, Derek Brunson. Then, just the best of the best here. Whitaker, Strickland, Adesanya. Who's going to take DDP out?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to wait and see. I really don't see it being this weekend. And off the top of my head, with that weight class, I'm not too...
Hamzat's getting the next shot.
Okay.
You think Hamzat's the guy?
I think Hamzat is on that same mission, and probably, just as intense, if not more intense than Du Plessis. So I'll save my judgment until the fight's made, but I could see Hamzat, possibly dethroning him.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be the one where we see it more closely lined. It's going to be more of a what if scenario going into that fight, and I'd probably lean Hamzat, but I wouldn't be surprised either. DDP just continues on this streak, because to your point, he seems like a guy who's on a mission, and he wants to keep that belt strapped around his waist as long as he can. And I'm going to use Josh's comment here. Shout out Josh. Tatiana Suarez -125, Weili at -105. Weili is the incumbent. She's on a good winning streak. Tatiana Suarez, a lot of people have been waiting for her to, have this shot. She's a, well-renowned wrestler. Her games have been improved, or her games improved. She's training with her boyfriend now, Patchy Mix, who's helped her out a lot. What are your thoughts? Do you agree on this minus 125? And I'll defer to you because I know you're an MMA head. What's going on here?
I'm a big fan of her. You know, saw her on The Ultimate Fighter when she won the season. And this line is crazy.
So you think it's crazy?
I think it's crazy, but every other fight that she's ever been in, the odds have been like minus 600 and above. You know what I mean? So just seeing Wei Li being the champ and Tatiana Suarez, I don't think that she's fought, you know, like within the last year. I think she's got some time out of the octagon. I maybe like Wei
She hasn't
Li.
fought since 2023.
Yeah, so it's been a minute. I would have seen maybe Wei Li minus 125, but the thing is, we've seen Wei Li lose by, you know, being taken down and being held down. So if anybody can do that, Tatiana Suarez is like the, you know, top shelf of that division at wrestling. When she came in, you know, had cancer early on, that kind of stunned her career a bit. But everybody knew that she was going to be fighting for a belt one day, and here she is finally fighting for the belt. I mean, we've seen Wei Li lose already, so we know that she's not immortal. Like, we don't, you know, even Amanda Nunes did lose to somebody like Juliana Pena, who was a wrestler, you know, and subbed her, but Nunes kind of seems immortal. You know, I don't think that Wei Li really seems that way. Yes, we talk about her being made, you know, in a lab just to be a fighter, but we've seen her lose several times. So I'm gonna pick against her. You know, I'm gonna go with Tatiana Suarez. I think that she's gonna be able to implement her game plan. We talk about, you know, being able to follow a game plan. It's gonna be wrestle, wrestle, wrestle. She's not gonna gas out. That is a lot of time out of the octagon. It could affect the timing, but I think that her cardio, she's been a wrestler her whole life, so the cardio is gonna be there. So let's just get the fight on the ground, and I think Tatiana Suarez can either get a sub or just win a decision.
And NFL MVP just announced. It's Josh Allen.
Nice.
And Josh Allen walks away with the MVP.
Hell yeah.
I'll give my quick thoughts here, and then we can talk a little MVP. I'm going to go Wei Li. I just think she's going to be too explosive, and I hope that's the way that she comes out, because I think that's her path to victory. Because to your point, the more well-rounded, you know, grappler, wrestler, it's going to be Tatiana Suarez. She's going to be, you know, wanting to get you to the ground, and she's going to be the taller fighter. She's going to have the reach going into that fight. So I think Wei Li's going to have to make it dirty. She's going to have to get inside, and I want to see some explosiveness out of her, and, you know, maybe go for a TKO, because she has that strength in her to put somebody out. So that's what I'm hoping to see. But, you know, if Tatiana Suarez wins here, will not be the slight bit surprised either.
And if it stays standing, that's a very, you know, that's a very viable outcome, like Wei Li knocking her out, because if it stays standing, she probably is going to get dropped. But I just, you know, I'm hoping that she's able to get it to the ground like she has every other fight.
For sure.
But standing up, Wei Li is head and heels way above her.
Yeah, and Justin is not here, but we know he's going to be taking Tatiana Suarez on Saturday night. Or is this a nighttime card? Because I know they are fighting down under in Australia. I think it's probably good that we figure that out before we get out of here tonight.
Probably is.
But MVP, Josh Allen, quick thoughts there, and then we'll talk Paul Canelo and just get out of here.
Yeah, it's awesome to see February at 9 p.m. So no, it is regular
Okay.
pay-per-view time
There we
this
go.
weekend. Glad to see Josh Allen finally win the MVP. You know, shit, kind of like, you know, my boy in the NBA. Finally got that MVP, no ring. He's got a lot of time to get the ring, you know, but finally getting that long-awaited MVP. I think we've been talking about Josh Allen, you know, MVP maybe the last 2 years. So for him to finally get it, you talked about Lamar Jackson kind of closing as a big favorite after being named first team All-Pro. So maybe some voter fatigue played in.
Yeah, voter fatigue. Don't want to give Lamar another MVP. And I mean, when you just look at it too, and I think you were bringing up the point, if you just look at what Josh Allen had to work with this year versus what Lamar Jackson had to work with, it pales in comparison, man. I mean, Josh Allen had to be Superman for the Bills to get where they were getting. Lamar had a great year, but when you talk about MVP, you take Josh Allen off of the Bills. and they're looking for a quarterback this year, right? They're drafting number 1 or number 2. This team is not that good without Josh Allen. So yeah, props to Josh Allen. Didn't have the better numbers if you just looked straight down the line, but can't argue with the result here. And then lastly, Jake Paul versus Canelo, of what Eddie Hearn is calling a done deal. What are your thoughts there? We've been talking about Canelo the past few years. It seems like he wasn't fighting Bivol, which we gave him props for, he was ducking David Benavidez, and now, the Terrence Crawford fight where he was going to fight a smaller guy coming up to fight him. He opts to fight Canelo. I mean, not Canelo, Jake Paul. You got to think it's only because of the money. Like, I asked this in the group chat. No one really responded, but is Paul a bigger draw than Terrence Crawford in boxing?
He is a bigger draw. I didn't answer. I didn't answer because I still don't believe that it's true. In boxing, you got to take this shit with a grain of salt.
Like soccer almost, when you hear all those
rumors. Like when you hear about a soccer transfer, exactly. Because yesterday you were hearing about the Crawford and Canelo fight possibly being canceled. Today you hear, Canelo and Paul is a done deal. I mean, I think there's 2 Mexican holidays coming up. There's the one in September, and then there's Cinco de Mayo. So there is 2 fights that he still has to make. I hope that, if the Paul fight is true, that he still fights Terrence Crawford. And then, the Paul fight, he probably won't even need training for. So I just hope that he's still fighting Terrence Crawford if the Paul news is true. If he canceled the fight with Terrence Crawford and is only fighting Jake Paul, oh man, bro, there's going to be a lot of pissed off Mexicans, bro.
So you think this is some posturing? They're playing some games here, trying to up the ante with the money, maybe. Because that's the only thing I could think of if this ends up really not being true, is that they were just using this as a scare tactic, really, to get some more money. And it's crazy to think, dude. And that's why I asked the question: like, is Paul really a bigger draw than Terrence Crawford? You got to think. Like, if you're just talking about the sports fan, like somebody who understands the sport, not necessarily.
Just think about in the living room. What name is going to ring bells?
It for sure is Jake Paul, man. But if you're just wanting to see the better fight, and which I would think most sports fans, and I'm not saying like the boxing hardos, guys who are watching every boxing card and they're true boxing guy. I'm just talking about like you and me almost, as far as our level of interest in boxing. Who would you rather see Canelo fight? Terrence Crawford or Canelo? I mean, Terrence Crawford or Jake Paul?
Yeah, probably Terrence Crawford still. Like, I'm going to watch him fight, Paul if he does. But if you're just talking about buys, like on their side for money, you might not even break 1 million buys fighting Terrence Crawford, bro.
Oh man, is that the state that we're in today?
If you go and fight Paul, you might probably you have the possibility of breaking the biggest gate ever possible.
No, dude, that's not possible, dude. That Jake Paul and
his
Canelo
following is he just has too big of a following, bro.
Oh man, if they do the biggest gate like in fight history, like you're saying, that would be nuts. So do you think it's bigger than? No, it's not. It's not bigger than.
It probably won't happen because you're still gonna have those old school people that are gonna be like, "Why the fuck am I gonna watch that? I'm not gonna pay for
this."
That.
This isn't Mayweather versus McGregor. This is a step below that, right?
I think it's on the same level. I mean, let's go to their Instagram pages and let's just look at the popularity, like the fan base. I'm sure that their numbers are equal.
Yeah,
like,
no,
for sure. Connor's a lot more credible because he was fighting UFC, but this guy has been boxing for a while. I'm not saying that he's a championship boxer, but it's kind of the same shit, bro.
Two questions here, and then we can wrap it up. We're getting close to 10 here, but this has been fun, honestly, just talking Paul Canelo. Didn't think we'd be talking about this to start the year off, but I already forgot where I was going. Who would you rather see fight, or what fight would you rather see? Like Canelo versus McGregor, Canelo versus Paul, or McGregor versus Paul, or McGregor, or McGregor versus
We've already seen McGregor. Would I rather see McGregor versus Paul? I'd probably rather see McGregor versus Paul because I think there's less of a gap than there is with Canelo and Paul. One guy is like a Hall of Fame boxer. The other two are both non-Hall of Fame boxers. but we've also seen, McGregor in there already, and he gassed out, bro. Is he not going to gas out now? Like,
Yeah,
he
and
gets his cardio in just by doing bumps, and then pacing
and running
up and
around.
down. Yeah, like we've seen him gas. We don't want to see.
No, we're gonna see Conor McGregor versus Jeremy Stevens and bare knuckle before we see anything else. Yeah, that'd be lit. But Ben, any parting shots here? It's been a long show. Didn't expect it to be this long, but just like chopping it up.
Yeah, no parting shots. Like I said, I'm gonna go into a dark place with this Rockets 5-game skid.
Yeah, man.
I was at the top of the world, sending it everywhere when we were the number 2 seed. I think we're down to the 4th seed after tonight's loss, but great sports weekend, man. You got basketball on, you got UFC on, you have EPL soccer on.
The Waste Management Phoenix Open.
You have golf on, you have NFL football on, you have UFC on. There's everything going on this weekend, so really looking forward to it.
And maybe we'll post some plays or something on a little card for the Super Bowl, some fun props, or we'll post up a prop sheet here for you guys to fill out, and we'll have some fun with it. But everybody that's joined us today, Josh, Jerry, saw Edgar in there. A shout out everybody that's been with us tonight. Much appreciated. Joshua Garza, 2 Joshes tonight. All right, well, guys, it's We Talking About Sports. It's been the trade deadline recap, UFC 312 and Super Bowl preview, and we'll be here next week to recap it all. See you guys.